Extraordinary+Live Broadcast+Entertainment circle. In his previous life, Tu Yao, who had gone from being a low-key player to becoming a Grand Slam actress, was reborn and only wanted to lie flat. After leaving the circle, Tu Yao became a live streamer and unleashed himself. During the live broadcast, when mentioning former colleagues/seniors/juniors in the entertainment industry, Barrage enthusiastically spoke up. "My older brother practices dancing all night and even posts on Weibo for business, he's a super fan. My sister is both A and Sa, cool and cute, and enterprising. Thieves are strong. If you want fans, just fan the old actor's bones. With both virtue and art, you will never collapse your house." On the surface, she nodded frantically. Yes, you're all right. The audience is the father, and Tu Yao praised these people without any psychological burden. Soon people discovered that all the people she praised during the live broadcast had collapsed. Netizens suddenly realized that she had already hinted to us. She immediately started a live broadcast to clarify. Unexpected. This is definitely a coincidence. I don't know anything, believe me. Behind her back, she manually lit a cigarette. Where can there be good silver in the entertainment industry? As soon as the words fell, someone showed an innocent expression and approached her step by step. Am I not a good person? She. Why don't you touch the corner of your head and say if you're human? Keywords of the novel. After leaving the live stream, the entertainment industry trembles without pop-ups. After leaving the live stream, the entertainment industry trembles with no pop-ups. After leaving the live stream, the entertainment industry trembles with no pop-ups. After leaving the live stream, the entertainment industry trembles with no pop-ups. After leaving the live stream, the entertainment industry trembles with no pop-ups. After leaving the live stream, the entertainment industry trembles with no pop. UPS, after. Chapter 1. Sleeping in Laziness. Neglecting work to the extreme. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Sleeping in Laziness. Neglecting work to the extreme. I need to change partners. The eyelids were heavy, the eardrums were buzzing, and Tu Yao had not yet opened his eyes. The first clear sentence he heard was the young man's dissatisfied complaints. This voice sounded familiar to her, but she couldn't immediately recall who it was, as if it was a distant memory. Tu Yao frowned heavily, and when she opened her eyes, she was caught off guard by the light emitted by the huge chandelier above her head. She instinctively raised her hand to block her eyes, and then realized that she was lying on the floor. My head feels like it's been filled with lead, I'm groggy, and my throat is dry and sore. She gritted her teeth secretly, propped her palms on the ground and struggled to get up, finally seeing her surroundings clearly. This is a variety show rehearsal room called I Want to Be an Actor. The young man who had just made a sound was doing exquisite makeup and hair, with a gentle milky yellow hair color, but his expression was not at all associated with gentleness. He ignored the dissuasion of his assistant and the camera and continued to complain incessantly, it's okay to team up with this unknown nobody from somewhere. Why is the script still picked out by someone? He rolled up the script in a circle and held it in his hand, constantly using it to look at his assistant's head, venting his anger. What kind of nonsense plot? Who wrote this script? Who prepared it? Ah. Are you deliberately targeting me? Seeing the assistant being knocked on the head by him, although his face was full of fear, he didn't even dare to hide. The camera couldn't bear to watch anymore and tried to remind him to pay attention to his behavior. Brother, calm down, we're still filming. Upon hearing this, not only did he not restrain himself, but he confidently ordered, then turn it off. All the things I just filmed, please delete them for me. He paused for a moment, squinted his eyes, stared straight at him, threatening, if these videos spread online, I'll be the first to come to you. Tu Yao. It's been a long time since I heard such an arrogant speech in person. After listening to his cursing, she regained some energy. The scene before her reminded her of years ago and made her confirm something, she was reborn 8 years ago. Before he could be shocked, the young man Yu Guang noticed her getting up and stopped speaking. He then turned his gaze to her and sarcastically said, "Oh, sleeping beauty, woke up. I thought you were planning to sleep until the recording ended." His eerie voice interrupted her thoughts. Tu Yao calmed down, his gaze fixed on his face for a few seconds, and tentatively asked, "Are you Pan Huangyu?" As soon as he finished speaking, the man's face changed instantly and his volume increased a few degrees. "What do you call me?" However, Tu Yao was not frightened by his sudden expression, and instead asked strangely again. "Aren't you a member of the WK boy group, Pan Huangyu? Her memory shouldn't be so bad, right?" Upon seeing this, the camera kindly reminded, "You should call him Senior Pan." Tu Yao suddenly understood. "I remember that Pan Huangyu is indeed a person who likes to play big names. He tends to bow down in front of people with higher status, pretending to be humble. However, in front of small celebrities and staff, his true face is exposed. Vanity, arrogance, and being cautious." Tu Yao's eyes rolled around, but he didn't intend to make him happy. He just nodded lightly and said, "Oh. An idol from a male band who doesn't improve his singing and dancing abilities, but instead studies how to present a better stage, comes over as a senior actor in a variety show. He hasn't acted in a single play, what kind of senior is he?" Pan Huangyu was infuriated by her attitude and glared fiercely at her, shouting, "Director, I strongly demand a change of partner. Each rehearsal room is equipped with many cameras and receivers, and the director keeps an eye on the situation in each rehearsal room during the broadcast. At present, it seems that people from other teams, regardless of their personal relationships, still maintain a seemingly harmonious relationship. Only Pan Huangyu and Tu Yao, this group, fell into a bad relationship from the beginning. In other words, it was actually Pan Huangyu who unilaterally looked down on Tu Yao and always found fault unilaterally. Tu Yao seemed to have been trying hard to perform better before, but her partner didn't cooperate at all, and she was powerless. The director had already noticed that Tu Yao's physical condition was not good today, probably because he was sick. However, seeing that she did not actively raise the issue, he did not say anything. Anyway, he's just a minor scumbag in the 18th tier, an insignificant character that doesn't deserve special attention. He picked up the microphone and said a few words. Soon, the camera who heard his words from the headphones relayed to Pan Huangyu. The director said that currently no one from other teams has requested to change partners. If you insist on changing partners even if you cannot find someone willing to exchange with you on your own, you will have to exit the recording. After saying these words, the camera listened carefully for a while and then repeated, "However, this is your personal unilateral breach of contract, so you need to compensate for the breach of contract according to the signed contract." He asked, "May I ask if you still insist on making this request?" "No." Pan Huangyu took a deep breath. Tu Yao was not surprised by his quick compromise. The first team formation was in a mutual selection mode, with others forming partners one after another, leaving only Pan Huangyu and Tu Yao to automatically form the final team, and naturally only the remaining scripts could be chosen. Since their debut 2 years ago, the MK group has been quite popular in China. He personally promotes the popular cute and naive little dog boyfriend persona to the public, and has one of the top fans in the group. But the so-called persona is only accepted by uninformed fans and passers-by, and the people in the circle are not foolish. Before participating in such variety shows, the teams of various celebrities had already collected information about each guest and judge teacher, and they would also greet each other privately for convenience. A male idol like Pan Huangyu, who has high traffic, zero acting skills, and poor reputation, would not want to collaborate with anyone who has no problem with their brain. Except for the newcomer Tu Yao, who has no choice. The director's words seem to be communicating with him, but in reality, they imply a threat. Tu Yao believes that Pan Huangyu lacks the ability and courage to pay liquidated damages and disobey company requirements. And he did not hesitate to bow his head. Pan Huangyu's gaze turned and he met Tu Yao with a light mocking look. He turned his face black and pointed at her, saying, "But Tu Yao was lazy while sleeping during the recording. This is considered passive work, right? She deliberately didn't cooperate with my rehearsal. What do you say, director? Sleeping and being lazy. Neglecting work to the extreme." While rehearsing the scene where they had a dispute, he deliberately didn't give up when pushing and shoving her, and suddenly pushed her to the ground. She landed on the back of her head and was knocked unconscious. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. This must be a special fate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. This must be a special fate. The camera captured it clearly, but he had the audacity to open his eyes and tell lies. The director has a clear mind, but he has no intention of speaking for her. I thought Tu Yao would argue angrily with Pan Huanyu, but as soon as he finished speaking, Tu Yao covered his mouth and coughed a few times, no longer hiding his weak and tired expression. He weakly turned to the camera and said, "Director, I'm sick. Can I take a leave to go to the hospital?" The director was somewhat surprised. Generally speaking, newcomers like her, who have just entered the industry for a short time, finally get a chance to showcase themselves. Even if they are sick, they will grit their teeth and endure it. Maybe one day when they become popular and are exposed, they can still establish a good reputation for professionalism, making fans feel heartbroken. So when the director noticed that she was feeling unwell but didn't say anything, he took it for granted. I didn't expect her to take a public leave now. With so many pairs of eyes watching here, no matter what he thinks in his heart, he cannot refuse. Otherwise, if something happens to her on the show and she causes a big uproar, wouldn't it be his responsibility? With this in mind, the director decisively said, "Okay, hurry up to the hospital." Seeing the director threatening him with liquidated damages before, but being so tolerant towards Tu Yao at the back, Pan Huanyu easily agreed to let her go to the hospital for treatment. Pan Huanyu's heart was unbalanced. He glared at Tu Yao discontentedly and asked, "Hey, she's gone. Who am I rehearsing with?" Tu Yao looked at him with a smile on his face, and said with a pale face, "Senior Pan is so capable. It doesn't matter if you have me, a little transparent player, to cooperate. I believe that without my interference, you would perform better." "You." Pan Huanyu heard a sarcastic tone of yin and yang in her tone, and his anger rose from his heart. Just as she was about to erupt, the girl blinked and showed an innocent expression. "Ah, am I not right? Why is Senior Pan so angry?" Before Pan Huanyu could speak, Tu Yao let out a faint sigh and said helplessly, "Forget it, where is my physical health more important than Mr. Pan's mood? I won't go to the hospital, I will stay here to play for Mr. Pan. Director, if I can't hold on and faint, please show mercy and help me call an ambulance." Director. Pan Huanyu admitted that he was nauseous. That pent-up anger stuck in my heart, unable to move up or down. He couldn't bear it anymore and said, "Get lost." Tu Yao looked flattered and surprised, "Can I really do it? Senior Pan, are you sure you don't need me to stay?" Before she could finish speaking, Pan Huanyu clenched his fist and pretended to come over and wave at her, fiercely saying, "If you don't leave, I'll even beat women." The girl panicked and left. "Take a taxi to the hospital, register alone, get injections and medication, and wait for the nurse to come and get injections." Tu Yao skillfully carried out all of this. Wearing a mask, the smell of hospital disinfectant still seeps into the nostrils. Without any disturbance from others, she was finally able to calm down and organize her thoughts. Tu Yao is very certain that she has been reborn. 8 years later, she has gone from being a minor slacker in the 18th tier to becoming a Grand Slam actress, earning all the honors she can win in her career as an actress. Her cause of death is very bizarre, to the extent that few people may believe it even when it is said. Tu Yao was killed by a meteorite. I heard there was a meteor shower, and one day she drove up the mountain alone to see the stars. However, before she could see the meteor shower, she was hit by a sudden meteorite and died instantly. Open your eyes again and you'll be back 8 years ago. This year, she just graduated from college and officially entered the entertainment industry shortly after. Previously, she had acted in the roles of some passers-by, such as Jia, Yi, Bing, and Ding, and occasionally had the luck to have a few lines as background. Until a few months ago, while waiting in line to compete for a role with a higher salary than the background board, she was spotted by a new director and played the female lead in a low-cost web drama he led. This crew is really poor, even the second female lead earns only a little more than the supporting role she originally planned to compete for. However, Tu Yao chose this industry out of love, and there were no complaints. He played this role seriously. After the broadcast of this drama, the viewership was surprisingly good. Tu Yao also attracted some fans with her role as the second female lead in the drama. Her performance successfully caught the attention of the agency that had been adopting a free-range strategy towards her since signing the contract, and arranged for her to appear on this variety show. Young Tu Yao, who has just entered society, is not yet familiar with the rules of the entertainment industry, and does not know the so-called scripts and insider information. He is determined to perform well in this program and not let down the resources that the company has finally won. She did indeed win the favor of the judges and teachers with her excellent acting skills, making exceptions time and time again to keep her. But in the final showdown, she still lost to the designated champion. She was not convinced and wanted to argue with reason, so she was repeatedly suppressed and struggled to survive in this circle. At one point, she had the idea of giving up. But fortunately, they managed to survive in the end. She has played a variety of different roles, and her addiction to acting is already sufficient. Now she has experienced the feeling of standing at the peak of Tu Yao, with a feeling of crossing 1,000 sails and seeing through the world. This dirty circle is completely boring. She didn't want to walk the same path again, to live a lifetime of rebirth. After receiving the injection, Tu Yao felt his body relaxed a lot and his headache symptoms were relieved. Carrying medicine and lunch bought on the way, she returned to the entrance of her rented apartment where a furry little ball was nestled in the corner. It was covered in conspicuous red bloodstains, with numerous scars, and remained motionless. It wasn't until she walked to the door that it seemed to hear anything, slowly opening its eyes and looking at her. Blue eyes, like clear lake water, looked at her with a watery and unblinking expression. Meow, ah, what a cute little kitten. Tu Yao's heart softened from its gaze, and he couldn't help but squat down and tentatively touched its head with his free hand. It blinked, suppressed the urge to dodge, and let her touch it. You're injured. Tu Yao's gaze fell on it, gently furrowing his brows and asking, do you want me to take you in? If you can understand what I'm saying and want me to take you in, then you can look up and touch my hand. It's amazing that a cat would take the initiative to walk to her doorstep. This must be a special fate. Meow, after she finished speaking, she raised her hand a bit and left its head. In the next moment, the puppet cat raised its head and rubbed against her hand. Is this the meaning of agreement? Tu Yao, who was about to have his first pet in life, suppressed his excitement and carefully picked it up before opening the door and entering the apartment. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Trust her only one person. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Trust her only one person. After lunch, on the way to take the kitten to the animal hospital, Tu Yao received a call from his agent. After the phone was connected, before she could speak, she heard Lu's voice coming from the other end. Xiao Yao, I heard the director of I Want to Be an Actor say, did you take a day off today? Lu Gu is an agent assigned by the entertainment company she signed with. In fact, in the agent industry, Lu Gu is also considered half a newcomer. In addition to her, he also brings 2 newcomers. Although he doesn't have much resources, he is still kind to her. Tu Yao's gaze fell on the stuffed cat resting on her lap and said, yes, I'm sick. I'm taking a leave to go to the hospital. I thought the little one would feel uneasy all the way, but I didn't expect it to adapt very well. It was quiet and didn't move around. How well behaved. She raised her hand and gently stroked its head with her index finger. Are you sick? Is it serious? Are you still in the hospital now? Can I go see you when I have time later? Listening to the phone in her hand, she absent-mindedly thought. I don't know who had the heart to harm it so badly. Is it because its former owner abused it? Did it escape because it couldn't bear it? No need, I'm much better now. She suddenly remembered something and said sternly, by the way, Brother Lou, I have something to tell you. You can talk about anything. Tu Yao said, after this variety show is filmed, I won't renew my contract with the company anymore. The contract with this company was signed when she first got into the film academy. At that time, she was young and immature, with information barriers, and didn't know how to investigate the specific situation of this company. She hastily signed the contract, which lasted for 5 years. After the recording of this variety show is completed, the contract she signed with this company will almost expire. Lu Gu exclaimed in surprise, Ah! Xiaoyao, are you confused? Didn't we all agree to renew your contract after this variety show is finished? Why don't you suddenly stop wanting to renew your contract? Has someone been looking for you? Hey, Xiaoyao is still young now, don't worry. The company has already seen your potential, otherwise they won't recommend you to this variety show, right? As long as you perform well on the show, your resources will definitely get better and better in the future. Although she signed a contract with the company and became a nominal artist, at that time, the company signed many ignorant newcomers like her at once and adopted a free-range strategy. In recent years, she ignored them and did not fulfill her promise before signing, providing them with opportunities for development. Commonly known as the act of drawing pancakes. Even being a passerby, A, B, C, and D, was all she fought for herself. If it weren't for her encountering that web drama, the company would probably not have remembered her, let alone the renewal of her contract. It's not surprising that Lu would mistakenly think someone is coming to dig the bottom of the wall when the company is not being kind. Tu Yao patiently explained, No, I just don't want to stay in this circle anymore. After a moment of silence, Lu Gu hesitated and asked. Xiaoyao, did someone bully you? As a veteran of the entertainment industry, Tu Yao immediately understood what elder brother Lu meant by bullying. She chuckled and joked, Does brother Lu want to seek justice for me? Are you really being bullied? Lu Gu believed it to be true and his tone was much higher. Who is it? Xiaoyao, don't be afraid. You are my artist, and I will definitely seek justice for you. He suddenly remembered something, his tone softened, and he advised kindly, Don't take it too hard, Xiaoyao. There is nothing more important in this world than your own life. The little cat listened to their conversation and yawned wearily. During the conversation, the destination arrived. Tu Yao perfunctorily hung up the phone after a few words, paid the money, and took the kitten to the pet hospital. After a brief conversation with the staff of the pet hospital, Tu Yao was about to hand over the kitten to the other person. The little one, who had been obedient all the way, suddenly struggled with meowing and refused the other person's hand. His teeth bit into Tu Yao's clothes, and his eyes became wary. Although he has never kept a pet, Tu Yao speculates that the kitten is feeling uneasy. The brief conversation at the entrance of the apartment before made Tu Yao feel that this little guy could understand her expression. So she explained to it seriously, This sister is the doctor who treats you. You need to cooperate well, so your injuries will heal quickly. The little one looked at her skeptically for a while. The little one looked at her with watery eyes unblinking. Tu Yao thought it agreed, so he happily put it into the doctor's hand. Unexpectedly, in the next second, the little one buried his head in her arms, and the whole cat wished to stick to her, with a face that would rather die than surrender. She awkwardly stared at the doctor for a few seconds. But to be honest, this is the first time in all these years that she has experienced this feeling of dependence, even though the other person is just a little kitten. What about the kitten? The kitten is soft and cute, and still relies on her so much. It only trusts her and is willing to be held by her alone. Tu Yao has a strange sense of satisfaction. The little one refused to eat either soft or hard, and in the end, the doctor had to let her hold her and directly examine her. Fortunately, the injuries on its body only look scary, but they are all minor skin injuries that are not serious. Simply clean the wound, apply medicine, and then wrap it up. Not long after bringing the kitten home, Tu Yao received another call from Brother Lu. "Xiao Yao, are you at home now?" She raised her eyebrows slightly and said with a smile, "Brother Lu is coming to visit the doctor." In fact, she knew that the phone call between the two ended too hastily, and Lu Gu probably had a lot of doubts in his heart that he wanted to verify with her. Right. I'm on my way to the supermarket right now. What fruit do you want to eat? Can I bring it to you?" Tu Yao was about to say that he didn't need to spend any money when he suddenly caught a glimpse of the little guy on the sofa looking curiously. His heart twitched slightly and he said, "Brother Lu, don't bring any fruit. Can you help me buy something else?" After hearing her request, Brother Lu confirmed with her twice. Tu Yao actually asked him to help buy a series of cat care products such as cat litter and food. "Do you want to keep a cat?" Tu Yao looked at the little one with a smile, and as he looked at it, he simply liked it more and more. While pondering what name to give it, he replied, "Yes, I found it at my doorstep. It's super cute." The little kitten's ears twitched and slowly turned its head, as if trying to peek at her. Unexpectedly, she was also staring at it with a smile on her face. "Lu Gu. Ah. You picked it up. It's better not to keep animals of unknown origin, right?" Before he could finish speaking, Tu Yao casually flipped his phone onto the sofa and quickly covered the little one's ear. End of this chapter. Who can refuse a kitten in Chapter 4? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Who can refuse a kitten in Chapter 4? Before he could finish speaking, Tu Yao casually flipped his phone onto the sofa and quickly covered the little one's ear. Hello. Xiao Yao, did you hear me?" After a moment, she picked up her phone and said, "Brother Lu, don't talk nonsense. Our little kittens can't listen to these words." Under Tu Yao's insistence, Lu Gu still purchased and delivered the cat care supplies she requested to her doorstep. Tu Yao opened the door with a bright smile and said, "Thank you, Brother Lu. A good person lives a safe life." She has just graduated and doesn't have much savings. The apartment she rented has suitable living conditions and a less remote location, and the price is within her affordability range. The only downside is that, this is a staircase room, there is no elevator in the entire building. She lives on the 5th floor, and Lu went to great lengths to move these big and small boxes upstairs. Looking at her bright smile, Lu grabbed his waist and gasped for breath, glaring at her in frustration. I almost turned my back in one breath. Tu Yao smiled and said, "Brother Lu has worked hard. When I have more money, I will treat you to a big meal." Having been in this circle for so many years, Tu Yao has been able to achieve the act of drawing big pancakes without hesitation. However, at this moment, she is truly grateful to Lu Gu. However, due to not having much money now, she can only express her gratitude mentally. Lu didn't seem to take it seriously and casually replied, "That's what you said. I remember." He was about to seriously talk to Tu Yao about renewing his contract, but he was pulled by her to help unpack and install these cat-raising equipment. After finally finishing his work, Tu Yao received a call from the staff of the variety show director's team, inquiring about her physical condition and urging her to go back and record. The recording rule for this episode is to start a 24-hour countdown from the end of the mutual selection for rehearsal, and then officially go on stage to perform live in front of a group of judges, teachers, and some audience members randomly selected from the internet. Of course, their rehearsal process is also a part of editing materials. When the variety show officially airs, each group will select some clips that they feel are usable and cut them in. Since she and Pan Huangyu decided to form a team, Pan Huangyu has not concealed his disgust and disdain towards her. Therefore, until now, the countdown has passed halfway, and their group has not yet had suitable rehearsal materials to use. It is not surprising that the director team is anxious. Since she has made up her mind to withdraw from the entertainment industry, even if this variety show marks the official end of her career, Tu Yao has become accustomed to it and naturally does not intend to make it difficult for others. I know, I'll hurry over now. While she was on the phone, Lu noticed a fluffy lump nestled on the sofa. Curiously, he leaned in and saw that it was cute, so he wanted to reach out and touch it. One person and one cat looked at each other from the distance, and Lu's hand paused. Is this little cat's gaze too fierce? Is it his illusion? He rubbed his eyes, fixed his gaze, and found that it was still staring at him with its ice-blue pupils, which were erect, as if a beast would attack him at any moment. It's strange, how could a little kitten have such fierce eyes? Lu was a bit puzzled. His hair was so scared when he was stared at by it that he didn't dare to reach out and touch it rashly. He remembers Xiaoyao saying that she picked up this cat, and he doesn't know if there is any virus on his body. If he accidentally gets a paw from it and wants to get an injection, it's not good. With this thought in mind, he took a few steps back very wisely and moved away from the sofa. Tu Yao hung up the phone and didn't notice the eerie atmosphere between a person and a cat. He naturally walked to the sofa and sat down, reached out to touch the little one's head, and carried it into the newly installed cat nest. The whole process didn't see it struggle for a moment. It was incredibly obedient. Even the gaze at Tu Yao was incredibly gentle, watery. Hey, can this little cat still watch people eat dishes? Lu scratched his head and asked her, did it just come from the program team of, I Want to Be an Actor. Tu Yao nodded and said, urge me to go back and continue recording the program. She looked at the quiet little one in the cat's nest with unease and said to Lu, Lu, could you please help me take care of it for a few hours? I don't feel very safe leaving it alone at home. Ah. Take care of it. Lu was dumbfounded, frozen in his shocked expression, and looked at her with his mouth wide open. Tu Yao looked at him strangely and said, why, are you busy with something? Meow. Before Lu could speak, the little one who had been quietly staying in the cat's nest suddenly stood up and walked up to her feet, rubbing against her pant legs. Seeing this, Tu Yao crouched down and was about to pick it up when it quickly jumped into her arms. She was startled and looked carefully for a while, only to breathe a sigh of relief when she saw that the wound on its body had not oozed blood. What's wrong? Tu Yao looked down at the little guy in his arms. It looked so cute that her tone of voice involuntarily softened a bit. Meow meow, it called softly a few times, and its talking blue eyes stared at her without blinking, as if playing coquettish. Tu Yao stared at it for a few seconds, raised his eyebrows slightly, and hesitated. Do you want to go with me? Its eyes lit up instantly and it nodded. What the hell, can you really communicate? Lu looked at her in surprise and said, when did you learn animal language? Strangely enough, he always felt that the Tu Yao in front of him was somewhat different from the Tu Yao he knew. In his eyes, this little girl had just graduated from college and was full of love for performance. She was full of youthful and immature qualities that had just been exposed to society and had not truly experienced the impact of wind and rain. However, she was also working hard to adapt and move forward, like a sapling full of vitality growing out of a seed, full of vibrant hope. In my impression, Tu Yao has not completely detached himself from his student identity, and his attitude towards him is like treating teachers in university, full of awe. But in front of him, Tu Yao treated him like an equal elder, friend, or colleague, familiar with nature and able to make a casual joke. It's like growing up and being sensible overnight. It's broken, can't it really be that I was bullied or have a psychological problem? Brother Lu secretly said that it's not good. Tu Yao didn't know how much Lu Bu had brainstormed in less than a minute, so he smiled and said, I was just guessing. I didn't expect to guess right. It's amazing. It seems that she has a strong connection with this little guy. Tu Yao pondered for a moment and explained to it, but the place I'm going to is very crowded, and you'll be afraid. Why don't you stay at home and wait for me to come back? The little one shook his head and looked at her with a determined gaze. Tu Yao didn't hold on and compromised. Oh, there's no way, who can refuse a clingy and cute little cat? End of this chapter. Chapter 5 is about you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 is about you. Coincidentally, Brother Lu wanted to figure out what kind of bullying Tu Yao had suffered, so he put the little guy into his spaceship backpack and the two of them went to the variety show shooting building together. After a brief negotiation with the director team, seeing that they promised not to let the kitten run out and cause trouble, they agreed to let Lu stay and watch. Although she has already recorded this variety show, for Tu Yao now, it was 8 years ago. Therefore, on the way, she found a self-made electronic version of the script and had an impression in her mind. She went through the lines from beginning to end and basically remembered it. One of her strengths is her good memory and fast ability to memorize lines. She and Pan Huangyu need to portray a plot segment from a classic ancient drama from over a decade ago. Simply put, it is a story about a scumbag chasing his wife at a crematorium, which was particularly popular back then. The general plot is a couple who fell in love with each other in college. The boy aspires to become a popular male actor, while the girl firmly believes that he will be able to successfully realize his dream and always spares no effort to help him. At first, the two of them encountered many difficulties, but they supported each other and finally managed to make it through. The boy did indeed become famous overnight with a play. But entering this extravagant fame and fortune market, it is not easy to stick to one's true intentions. Besides, the boy himself is not a person with particularly strong willpower. If it were not for his girlfriend's constant encouragement and support by his side over the years, he would probably not have been able to hold on to this day of fame. After becoming famous, boys gradually change. His rumor about his relationship with a female celebrity is highly publicized and never clarified. He wants to break up with his ordinary girlfriend. Before she comes to argue with him, he first nitpicks her own conditions, and then looks down on everything she has done for him. He is cold and violent, refuses her intimacy, and forces her to voluntarily say, part ways. The two often argue. In fact, his girlfriend had already had a clear idea in her heart. On the day when she couldn't bear it anymore, her emotions reached their peak and conflicts erupted. She exposed all his excuses, openly stating that he had changed his heart by moving on to another relationship, slapped him angrily, and left in anger. Later, the boy had a falling out with his cheating partner and remembered his ex's kindness. He regretted not cherishing it, so he went to seek reconciliation like a dog. Despite being rejected, he never gave up. In fact, his ordinary girlfriend couldn't easily let go of their feelings for him, so the two of them were constantly involved. In the last accident, the boy sacrificed his life to save the girl in danger. She was finally moved by him and the two of them reconciled. At this moment, Tu Yao and Pan Huangyu are about to rehearse the long-awaited breakup scene. Pan Huangyu doesn't need to stir up emotions, as he is now holding the script in his hand and looking at her expression, which is clearly very irritable and disdainful. The psychological activity of this character at this moment is not difficult to fathom, and Tu Yao quickly enters the character's emotions. She stood in front of him, her face tense, but her gaze towards him couldn't help but show a hint of tenderness. She forced herself to calm down and calmly asked, "Afin, are all your scandals true?" He pursed his lips and remained silent, with no expression on his face, but if you look closely, you will find a hint of impatience in his eyes. At this moment, her emotions were extremely sensitive, almost instantly capturing the impatience in his eyes. It seems that something is starting to shatter in her eyes, with cracks emerging. But she refused to admit it until she heard it firsthand. Speaking. Why aren't you speaking? He didn't speak, just habitually raised his hand and glanced at the time on the dial. The cracks in her eyes grew more and more, and she chuckled self-deprecatingly, "Oh, you haven't talked to me well for a long time. Do you feel like you have nothing to say to me? I saw those videos circulating online, and you were chatting happily with other women." He suddenly frowned and interrupted as if he couldn't bear it anymore. "I'm busy with work every day. Can you stop making trouble for no reason?" She was stunned for a moment, then showed an incredulous look and unconsciously pointed at herself, saying, "I was making trouble for no reason. Your rumor has been circulating online, but you haven't answered my phone, or even let your assistant answer it. I came to find you, but you didn't explain a word and instead accused me of making trouble for no reason. Song Chi-fan, have you forgotten that I am your girlfriend?" He asked in response, "So what?" Not a single explanatory word. He actually asked. "So what?" Tears swirled in her eyes, and her voice trembled delicately as she spoke. Her slender body seemed vulnerable. "What do you mean by that? You want to break up with me, right?" If it were in the past, seeing her tears, he would have panicked and hugged her to coax her. No, if it were Song Chi-fan from the past, he would never let her cry. But now, with only a slight movement in his eyes, he tentatively said, "What if I say so?" She finally couldn't deceive herself and turned pale. "You wanted to break up a long time ago, right? Song Chi-fan, I remember I told you that you can move on to another relationship. As long as you are honest with me, I will definitely not entangle. Why don't you just say it? Do you feel that the happiness of being together is very enjoyable, or is the feeling of cheating and stealing more exciting?" His face suddenly changed, and he sternly scolded, "I never said that. But you are like a resentful woman every day, suspicious and suspicious. No one can stand you." Her eyes were filled with sadness, and she raised her hand hard to wipe away the tears left behind by her lack of enthusiasm. She gritted her teeth and cursed, "Song Chi-fan, you are really a jerk." Speaking, she raised her hand, pop. A loud slap hit his face. At that moment, the air seemed to have come to a standstill. The onlookers next to her had been conquered by her acting skills, immersed in a sad mood, except for the little one who was packed in the spaceship cat bag. Pan Huanyu's face turned black in an instant, with a sinister expression. "Tu Yao, how dare you hit me?" The male protagonist's instant facial transformation instantly makes others appear in action. Looking at the red slap marks on his face, Tu Yao thought to himself, "It's you who hit." However, on the surface, she quickly showed a panicked expression, covering her mouth and instinctively taking a step back. "I'm sorry, Senior Pan, I got too involved in the scene and didn't control my strength," she said. "It's not that I didn't control it well, it's that I didn't even want to control it." She has always been a vengeful person, and she doesn't want to continue on this path anyway. Shouldn't she seize the opportunity to seek revenge on the spot? The back of the head still hurts, what's a slap? Pan Huanyu's assistant quickly went to find ice cubes to apply to him. He stood in place, his eyes fierce as if he wanted to devour her alive. "Bah! Don't pretend to be innocent, I won't eat this trick." With so many pairs of eyes looking at him, I don't believe anyone can see that you were intentional. With a loud bang in the sky, a new book shines brightly on the stage. New books require popularity, collection, comments, tickets, and various QAQ requirements. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Surprisingly, they actually fought again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Surprisingly, they actually fought again. Tu Yao was always on guard against his outburst, and when she met his gaze, she reminded him with some meaning, "Senior Pan, the camera is shooting, you need to pay attention to the image. Can you give me your guidance and advice?" He snorted disdainfully, but his gaze reflexively glanced at the cameras everywhere. In just a few words, the slap mark on his face had already started to swell. Coupled with his stinky face, it was really comical. Tu Yao suppressed a smile and looked at him innocently. Do we still continue rehearsing? Pan Huanyu sat in the chair and let his assistant handle the injury on his face. Upon hearing this, he angrily cursed, are you blind or have a brain problem? What line are you in when my face looks like this? The rehearsal segment just now is already enough to be cut into material. Since he voluntarily said not to rehearse, Tu Yao is enjoying himself. After all, wasting time on such a foolish person who didn't even want to play the game well and wanted to earn this money would give her the illusion that she is also a foolish person. As the assistant applied medicine to Pan Huanyu, Tu Yao couldn't wait to walk over to see the little one. The little one nestled quietly in the spaceship cat bag, her beautiful eyes staring at her without blinking, and her obedient appearance instantly captured her heart. Are you hungry or not? She smiled and found the cat's note, handing it to its mouth. The little one stared at the thing that reached his mouth, remained silent for a moment, pursed his mouth, turned his head to the other side, and expressed his answer with action. Aren't you hungry? Tu Yao regretfully withdrew his hand. Lu glanced at Pan Huanyu, got closer to her, and took the opportunity to lower his voice and ask, Xiaoyao, is he bullying you? Although during the rehearsal just now, Tu Yao seemed to have really slapped him because he was too deeply involved in the scene, looking at her now without any psychological burden, Lu Gu had a feeling that she was intentionally doing it. At this moment, Tu Yao had long forgotten the joke that had arisen earlier. Upon hearing this, he said, during the morning rehearsal, he deliberately pushed me down with force, and the back of his head hit the ground, and I was knocked unconscious. Thinking of this, she raised her hand and touched the back of her head, and as expected, she encountered a noticeable lump. Hiss. It hurts quite a bit. The little one glanced at her and then slowly looked at Pan Huanyu not far away. What a lack of quality. Looking at the lump on the back of her head, Brother Lu frowned angrily and said, give him a slap. Tu Yao joked, Brother Lu, speak louder. Although Lu Gu was holding her back, his voice was even lower than before, afraid of being heard by Pan Huanyu. Lu sighed and whispered, alas, he has many fans and low quality. I'm afraid. As the saying goes, it is better to offend a gentleman than to provoke petty people. Moreover, Pan Huanyu himself has a criminal record of guiding fan websites / abusing others. Thinking of this, he said anxiously, Xiaoyao, although your slap just now was quite soothing, I'm afraid he'll hold grudges. It's not a big problem. Tu Yao waved his hand, disapproving. She has been in the circle for 8 years and has seen the power of internet celebrities more than once. A few hours later, he officially performed on stage. Lu Gu sat in the corner of the audience with the little guy. Still the familiar plot. Although the plot is absurd, there are always people who fall for it. The audience on site were moved and empathetic by Tu Yao, who played the female lead. Lu Gu heard a girl grit her teeth and say to her companions, I don't know why, I really want to go up and slap Pan Huanyu now. Me too. At the slapping stage, Tu Yao raised his hand, pop. Even sitting in the audience, Brother Lu heard a crisp sound. Lu Gu. He bit his fingers frantically and lifted his heart. Xiaoyao is too brave, isn't she? Surprisingly, they actually fought again. It's over, it's over. Pan Huanyu must be angry this time and may not know how to deal with Xiaoyao. On stage, Pan Huanyu himself didn't expect that Tu Yao had the courage to really hit him in the face of so many people, and his strength was even greater than just now, and his expression froze for a few seconds. The face that took several hours to finally reduce swelling is now burning and painful. His expression was too ugly, not only Lu Gu, but even the others present thought he was going to strike out and go berserk. But he had a dark face and even gritted his head to continue acting. From his face, Brother Lu felt a calm before the storm, which seemed eerie at first glance. In a daze, the plot on stage has developed to the point where the scumbag regrets his previous entanglement with the female lead and seeks reconciliation. The scumbag realized her goodness and came knocking on his door, but the female protagonist dared not easily believe him anymore, so she pretended to be indifferent and refused him, asking him to leave. The scumbag held her slender wrist and lowered his head to kiss her. In the script, this plot is about the male protagonist attempting a forced kiss, but Tu Yao could tell from his excited eyes that he wanted to actually kiss. Pan Huanyu did indeed have a lustful heart. Although he is just a minor scumbag in the 18th tier, to be honest, even in the entertainment industry where there are so many beautiful women, Tu Yao is a rare beauty. Besides, she deliberately wanted to embarrass him in front of so many people. He took advantage of the situation and felt disgusted with her. Isn't that excessive? Tu Yao made up his mind that if he really dared to kiss him, she would definitely teach him how to be a good person. Anyway, he didn't follow the script for now. As a scumbag ex-girlfriend, it's not excessive to beat up the guy who sexually harassed her in a fit of anger, right? Audience seats. Immersed in a state of concern, Brother Lu did not notice that a faint light flashed through its ice blue cat pupils. The idea of teaching Pan Huanyu to be a good person had just emerged when she suddenly heard him scream in agony, "Ah!" He didn't know why, as if he had tripped over something, he fell in front of her and ate shit. Now he was lying in front of her, his face full of pain. If it weren't for the situation not allowing it, Tu Yao really wanted to laugh out loud and say to him, "There's no need to perform this great gift. There is no sound in the ear return." The director didn't say anything, so he had to continue acting. Tu Yao looked at him in surprise, showing a puzzled and intolerant expression. He forced himself to remain calm and said, "Even if you kneel down, I won't agree to reconcile with you. Please give up." As if to avoid feeling soft-hearted, she turned her head to the other side and didn't look at the person in front of her. There is still no sound coming from the ear. The next second, she heard Pan Huanyu grit his teeth and whispered into the microphone, "Director, I can't act anymore." Only then did the director's voice come back from his ear. Cack. The plot came to an abrupt end before it could finish, and everyone couldn't come to their senses. Only Pan Huanyu's assistant rushed over from the backstage and helped him up. Tu Yao covered his lips and exclaimed in surprise, "Senior Pan, it turns out you really fell just now. I thought this was your improvisation." End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Is intentional. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 is intentional. In front of everyone, Pan Huanyu received a loud slap and fell onto the stage in such a disheveled manner. At this moment, Pan Huanyu's mood was extremely bad, disregarding the people around him and the countless photography equipment on set. With the help of his assistant, he stood up and glared fiercely at her, saying, "You intentionally tripped me." Upon hearing this, Tu Yao's eyes widened and he performed a pupil tremor for everyone present. She looked innocent and said, "Senior Pan, how could I have such great ability to trip you up unconsciously under so many pairs of eyes and cameras?" Although she did have this idea after seeing his intention, he fell on his own before he could implement it, which really didn't concern her. But Pan Huanyu doesn't care so much. He did indeed feel something tripping him under his feet at that time, otherwise he would never have fallen in good condition. But there were no extra obstacles on the ground, and during the performance, there were only the two of them. Pan Huanyu said with great certainty, "At that time, you were the only one closest to me, and there was nothing on the ground. It was definitely you who tripped me with your feet." Tu Yao was insulted by someone for no reason, and his eyes were slightly cold. "Then please provide evidence," he said. I'll watch the replay later." "I see how tough you are." Seeing the smell of gunpowder between the two getting heavier and heavier, in order to prevent the situation from getting worse, the host quickly stood up and circled the stage, laughing. "It seems that the relationship between the two is very good. They are actually arguing on stage like no one else." Unfortunately, Pan Huanyu didn't give her face and her face still looked very unpleasant. Tu Yao saw her difficulties and smiled at her, curling his lips. Senior Pan is straightforward and has a genuine personality, he said. Her compliment eased the awkward atmosphere a lot. One of the judges spoke up first and asked, "I would like to hear your two evaluations of each other." The host first handed the microphone to Pan Huangyu. He picked it up and didn't even bother to look at his partner, saying, "To be honest, first of all, I feel like she's not very dedicated. We don't have much time for rehearsals, and she even found excuses to take leave and slack off, causing us to rush onto stage before we even finished a complete script. Another thing is that she's not very professional. She always drags me down during rehearsals and doesn't admit her mistakes. During the performance just now, the scene where she slapped me was supposed to take a seat, but she deliberately hit me without informing me beforehand. This shows that she doesn't respect my partner at all. I believe that no one can tolerate partnering with someone like her." This is the most logical paragraph that Tu Yao has ever heard from him. I probably didn't expect Pan Huangyu to speak so shamelessly, and everyone's expressions at the scene became a bit strange. Noticing a lot of sympathetic glances falling on her, Tu Yao timely showed an indescribable expression of frustration, drooping his eyes and staring at the ground as if hiding his emotions. In the audience, upon hearing his words, Lu Gu became angry and couldn't help but whisper to the kitten, "Xiao Yao took a leave of absence because he was sick. He also said he didn't want to continue rehearsing, but now it's all said to be Xiao Yao's fault. How could this person have such thick skin?" The little one didn't even glance at him, staring at the people on stage. The judges and teachers are also old fogies, so they won't be in a mess because of Pan Huangyu's words. The person who asked just now looked at Tu Yao, with a kind of straight look, and asked, "Tu Yao, your partner evaluates you like that, so what do you want to say?" Tu Yao slowly lifted his eyes. His beautiful eyes not only did not show any negative emotions of weakness or sadness, but also flickered with a faint light. He said with full confidence, "I think Mr. Pan is a very good-tempered, patient, kind, and talented actor." Everyone. Just now, the judges and teachers who heard Pan Huangyu belittle Tu Yao for being able to remain expressionless, but after hearing Tu Yao's evaluation of Pan Huangyu, they really couldn't hold back. Has a good temper. Have patience. Kind-hearted. Have talent. In the field of acting, few people dare to shamelessly claim that they have talent. They are not blind, they have a clear idea who performed better in the performance just now. Even the person asking the question couldn't help but twitch at the corner of their mouth. "Oh, can you explain it in detail?" Of course, Tu Yao smiled as she opened her eyes and said that lying was not a difficult thing for her. "Although it was my first collaboration with Senior Pan, he never despised me for being lazy. He patiently guided me and even took the initiative to help me rest when I was feeling unwell. Most importantly, although we didn't even go through a complete script, he acted very well on stage just now. Even when something unexpected happened, he quickly reacted to it. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't know how to act." The girl's eyes were sincere, and everyone suddenly didn't know whether she was speaking sarcastically or genuinely thinking so. The audience below has started whispering. "Oh my God, why is she so kind? Pan Huangyu just said that about her, but she didn't even complain and said so many compliments about him. Yeah, I really didn't expect her to be like this. I thought she would explain it to herself even if she didn't scold back. First of all, let me make it clear that I am not a fan of Pan Huangyu, nor did I intentionally flatter him. Is there a possibility that what Pan Huangyu said is true, and Tu Yao has no way to refute it, so why did he say his kind words to gain favor? So, what are you pretending to be, the White Lotus of the Virgin Mary? If she's really innocent, why don't you refute Pan Huangyu? There must be nothing to say. Besides, if it weren't for the fact, would Pan Huangyu dare to speak up in front of so many people? Ah, this sisters, the banner of Pan Huangyu on your hand has exposed its fans. Let's talk about it. From the performance just now, it is obvious that Tu Yao's acting skills are much better than Pan Huangyu's. Why did Pan Huangyu say that Tu Yao dragged his legs? He was really embarrassed when he performed himself, and my toes were almost buttoning the floor. Pan Huangyu couldn't hear the audience chattering, but he was already disgusted by Tu Yao's words. As a party involved, no one knows better than him that Tu Yao is speaking ironically. But he couldn't come forward to refute it, otherwise he would indirectly admit that he has a bad temper, lacks patience, is not kind, and lacks talent. Pan Huangyu is not that foolish yet. At this point, can he still not be clear whether Tu Yao is intentionally manipulating him? Whether it was the slap during rehearsal, the slap on stage just now, or the one that tripped him, and now making sarcastic remarks to disgust him, it was all intentional. End of this chapter. Do you also have a background in chapter 8? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Do you also have a background in chapter 8? Compared to other teams, their script itself is not pleasing in terms of plot, especially when Pan Huangyu suddenly called a halt, causing the entire plot to come to an abrupt end. In the words of the judges, their work is an incomplete work, so they received the least number of audience votes and directly finished last. Tu Yao doesn't want to continue living in the same room as Silly Cha. Anyway, the play has already been completed and there is no doubt that she will stay at the bottom. She just greeted the director and quickly removed her makeup and changed into her own clothes before running away. When he returned to the backstage, Pan Huangyu's expression was as ugly as eating a fly. Sitting in front of the dressing table, looking at the slap marks on his face in the mirror, Pan Huangyu became more and more angry as he thought about it. He clenched his fist and smashed it hard on the table, causing all kinds of cosmetics on the table to tremble. The assistant's heart also trembled. Pan Huangyu, with a black face, gritted his teeth and said, "Tu Yao, she dares to mess with me like this. I must make it impossible to survive in this circle." As soon as the words finished, the phone rang. He picked up his phone on the desktop and saw the call note displayed on the screen. His face suddenly relaxed, he took a deep breath, and even looked up at himself in the mirror with a smile. Assistant Yu Guang glanced at the call note on his phone and understood it clearly. After answering the phone, Pan Huanyu's tone was extremely gentle, as if he had changed his personality. "Chi-Chi, have you missed me? I was about to call you when you called me. You really had a deep understanding. Alas, things didn't go smoothly. I was slapped twice for no reason and tripped on stage. It's so embarrassing." Female, her name is Tu Yao, an unknown 18th tier little scumbag from somewhere. "Darling, do you want to vent your anger on me?" During the conversation, the assistant saw Pan Huangyu turn on the camera, take a photo in front of the mirror, and send her the appearance of her face with palm prints. Although I didn't hear exactly what they were talking about, after the call ended, the assistant clearly felt that Pan Huangyu's mood had become less bad. A cold smile appeared on his lips and he ordered, "Give Sister Wang a call later and tell her about today's situation. Buy a navy and incite public opinion. She knows what to do." This is not the first time he has asked his agent, Sister Wang, to handle someone who has offended him. The assistant responded and silently waxed the little star who was about to face a storm. Tu Yao, who finished work early, happily went to the restaurant with Lu Gu. Although I don't know why, the opportunity to start over is precious. Today is a day worth celebrating, and we must have a big meal to celebrate. Standing at the entrance of a 5-star restaurant, Brother Lu tightly grabbed Tu Yao who was about to walk inside and said, "Stop. It's the end of the month, this place is not something we can afford." Tu Yao. My treat. Upon hearing these words, Brother Lu immediately let go and looked at her with a skeptical gaze. "Are you treating her?" "Yes." "I don't believe it." Lu pointed at his own eyes with scissors and then at her, with an expression that had already seen through her trickery. "You mean you treat me to pay, right? I won't be fooled." Tu Yao. She opened her phone, intending to use the balance of her bank card to prove the credibility of what she said. After opening it, looking at the only 4-digit balance, Tu Yao lifted his head and looked at Lu Gu in silence. "So what? Brother Lu, actually the taste of the big food stall is not worse than here. Tu Yao smiled awkwardly. Lu gave her a displeased look and said, let's go, don't embarrass yourself here. The two of them went to a restaurant with a private room to order food. There was still some time before the meal was served, so there were not many people in the store and the dishes were served quickly. A strong aroma filled the private room, and Tu Yao's index finger twitched. After picking up chopsticks and eating half a bowl of rice, he suddenly saw a little guy waving his paws at her in the nearby cat bag. She smiled and said, "Are you feeling suffocated?" Speaking, put down the chopsticks, open the cat bag, and let it come out to breathe. Unexpectedly, the little one was agile and jumped onto the dining table, walking straight towards the soft and stewed braised pork trotters on the table. Tu Yao. Before it touched the dish, she quickly picked up the little one and saw it flapping its limbs and meowing, its eyes sticking to braised pig trotters, showing a strong reluctance. Tu Yao earnestly educated, "No, cats cannot eat these things, otherwise they will get poisoned." It began to regret. Why do you want to become a cat? Why do you want to become a cat? If I had known, I would have become something else. Okay. Hungry. Looking at its fierce expression, Tu Yao smiled and asked, "Are you hungry?" Meow. Nonsense. Tu Yao took out a small dried fish from his pocket and handed it to his mouth, eagerly saying, "Dried fish. You must love it." Forget it, having something is better than not having it. The little one looked at the dried fish with disdain before reluctantly taking it from her hand. Tu Yao's index finger tapped its head and said, "Oh, you're quite picky about food. Xiao Yao, since you plan to raise it, let's give it a name. Choose a name." Tu Yao is really not good at naming. She rubbed her chin and pondered for a moment. Is it called Little White? Or Little Blue? Its eyes are blue and quite beautiful. Looking at her serious appearance, Lu's mouth twitched and he said, "Are you serious? Little White and Little Blue, it sounds very hasty. Then let's call it Dried Fish, right?" Tu Yao smiled and said, "The name Xiaoyugan is so cute, that's it, Xiaoyugan. Okay, just be happy." The cat, who had been decided to call Xiaoyugan, looked up at her and saw that she was extremely satisfied with the name she had chosen. She thought it was useless to refuse, so she accepted it calmly. Halfway through the meal, Brother Lu suddenly remembered something and frowned anxiously. "I heard that Pan Huangyu is particularly stingy and holds grudges. Anyone in the circle who has offended him will not end up well, even members of the same team as him will let him go." Under the eager gaze of the little one, Tu Yao picked up a large pair of chopsticks and stuffed braised pig trotters into his mouth. The pig trotters are stewed so soft and delicious that they can be said to melt right into the mouth. Upon hearing this, Tu Yao casually said, "That's because he has a backstage." Lu nodded and said, "Yes, I also heard that he has a backstage. There must be someone behind him, otherwise how could he dare to be so arrogant?" Seeing Tu Yao's relaxed appearance, Lu Gu had a feeling that the emperor was not in a hurry and the eunuch was in a hurry. He sighed and said, "I just don't know who his backstage is, I'm really worried." "Don't worry." Tu Yao put a chicken leg into his bowl. Lu Gu hesitated and said, "Do you also have a backstage? Otherwise, why are you so leisurely?" End of this chapter. Chapter 9. How could it be so fragrant? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. How could it be so fragrant? Tu Yao grinned and said, "What kind of family do you have? Brother Lu, don't you still know?" That's right, he heard her say that since her parents divorced since childhood, she grew up with her father, who runs a restaurant and has nothing to do with the entertainment industry. Lu Gu scratched his head in confusion and said, "Then why aren't you worried at all?" Tu Yao smiled with a hint of heartlessness and said, "What's the use of worrying? Anyway, what you're worried about will definitely happen." Lu Gu. He suspected that he had heard the wrong thing and repeated with uncertainty, "Will it definitely happen?" "That's right," Tu Yao nodded and said as he put the dishes in the bowl, "Pan Huanyu's current girlfriend is the daughter of the CEO of Fast Wind Entertainment. Otherwise, why do you think he dares to be so arrogant? Quangfeng Entertainment is a large company that has cultivated many popular celebrities and has developed well in the entertainment industry." Lu's pupils trembled instantly and he looked at her in surprise. "How do you know?" Even he only heard that there was someone behind Pan Huanyu, but he really doesn't know who it is. If it weren't for listening to Tu Yao mention it, he would never have associated Pan Huanyu with Quangfeng Entertainment. After all, Pan Huanyu's company and Quangfeng Entertainment have a competitive relationship in many sections. Tu Yao imitated his expression and exclaimed in surprise, "Don't you even know this?" He doesn't know what's normal, right? Pan Huanyu is a popular influencer and also has a boyfriend persona. How can someone who relies on this business to attract fans fall in love? Even if the other party is the daughter of the CEO of Fast Wind Entertainment, as long as Pan Huanyu does not completely give up his idea of pursuing a career in the entertainment industry, it is impossible to make this matter public, and he will try to minimize the number of people who know about it. How could a newcomer like Tu Yao know such a private secret? Lu was skeptical and curious, saying, "You're not joking, are you?" Tu Yao smiled and said, "Yes, I'm just joking." Tu Yao thought a lot before going to bed, and even called his father who was far away in W City. However, he was mistaken by his father for a lack of living expenses, and without hesitation, he transferred 2,000 yuan to her. Looking at this transfer, Tu Yao felt a bit sad and amused, but finally felt a sense of reality in his heart. For a few fleeting moments, she would have the illusion that she was in a dream. Unconsciously, she fell into a dream. Good fragrance, good fragrance, good fragrance. Let me take a sip, let me bite, let me eat. How could it be so fragrant? Tu Yao was awakened by the surrounding noise. She opened her eyes in a daze, but was frightened by the sight before her and broke out in a cold sweat, instantly awakening herself. It was pitch black in front of her, and the only thing she could see was a pair of different eyes staring at her, greedy, as if a long hungry beast had seen delicious prey. "Help, am I dreaming?" Seeing the voice getting closer and closer to him, those strange eyes widened in front of him. The unknown and darkness made Tu Yao extremely afraid. She instinctively pinched herself, wanting to wake up from the nightmare, but the pain came and the scene before her did not disappear. No. Yes. Dreams. It's so fragrant, how could it be so fragrant? I can't stand it anymore, let me take one bite, just one bite. With those ghostly sounds echoing one after another, it seemed like a cold wind was blowing, causing Tu Yao to shiver and his hair to stand up. In the darkness, there seemed to be countless invisible, cold, and unnamed creatures vying to reach out to her. Perhaps the next second, something lurking in the darkness will open its fangs and bite off her neck. In her previous life, losing her life was just a blink of an eye. Before she could react, she was reborn 8 years ago when she regained consciousness. I didn't expect that in less than a day, the heavens would have to take back her rebirth experience card. Tu Yao widened his eyes, feeling extremely scared. His throat and eyes seemed to be blocked by something, and he couldn't make any sound. The fragrance here is the strongest, so fragrant. This sound seemed to be right beside her ear, with a hint of cold air brushing against her earlobes. Immediately, she felt something as cold and slippery as a tentacle wrapped around her neck. Ah 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 ah. As if a certain switch had been turned on, Tu Yao screamed uncontrollably, losing control and ignoring her nausea. He grabbed the thing wrapped around her neck with both hands and pulled it away with all his might. But her struggle seemed to anger it. Instead of pulling it apart, she tightened her tentacles and suddenly grabbed her neck. Cough. Tu Yao almost missed putting it on in one breath. The feeling of hypoxia and suffocation comes quickly. It smells so good. Let me take a bite. Those eerie voices were getting closer and closer to her. Tu Yao felt that she was surrounded by countless monsters, and her strength quickly disappeared like quicksand. Damn it, he died so inexplicably. With a strong sense of unwillingness, Tu Yao suddenly lowered his head and in the darkness, relying on his senses, took a hard bite on the tentacle wrapped around his neck, and a strange fishy smell filled his mouth. The voice in my ear turned into, "It hurts so much, so much." Fortunately, the monster felt pain and the tentacle around her neck loosened a lot of force. Pop. Tu Yao heard the sound of turning on the lights. I thought it was an illusion, but the next second, my eyes lit up. This is not the mysterious and unknown place that Tu Yao imagined, but her own room. Various strange creatures squeezed this small space tightly, and in the moment the light was on, they quickly squeezed into the corner and trembled together, staring in the direction of the door with fearful eyes. Even the creatures that had originally wrapped around her neck miraculously disappeared. Following their line of sight, Tu Yao saw dried fish. She was momentarily stunned, but the next second she saw the kitten transform into a human. The young man's figure was like a bamboo, his skin was as white as frost and snow, his eyebrows and eyes were cold and stern. His dark hair was as long as a waterfall, and a pair of beautiful deer antlers were exposed between his hair. His black robe moved silently without wind, and he only looked at the group of things squeezed in the corner. Their faces were frightened, and they said, "Spare your life." No one even resisted, not at all the arrogant way they had treated her just now. Tu Yao pursed his lips. Cut, it turns out that monsters also bully the weak and fear the hard. There was a faint pain in the area where the tentacles had strangled his neck, but looking at the scene before him, Tu Yao couldn't help but hold his breath. The young man silently raised his hand and with just one movement of waving his robe, the countless monsters in the corner disappeared without a trace, as if they had never existed before. Isn't this really acting? Tu Yao was stunned. The young man turned his gaze to her, his glass-like eyes froze at the corner of her lips for a few seconds before looking towards her neck. Facing his gaze, Tu Yao blinked slowly. If she's not mistaken, he was a little fish who made a change, right? End of this chapter. Is chapter 10 difficult, just a dream? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Is it difficult, just a dream? It turned out that it was not just an ordinary little cat, but like in mythological stories, it was a cat demon, and even a powerful cat demon, who waved his hand and eliminated a large group of monsters. It eliminated that group of monsters, so it should be protecting her, right? No wonder he appeared at her doorstep. Did he seek her revenge? In the blink of an eye, many questions popped up in Tu Yao's mind. Looking at the beautiful fairy-like face of the young man, Tu Yao's heart trembled inexplicably, but it was different from the trembling fear of facing death just now, but a feeling that she couldn't describe for a moment. She hesitated and said, "Dried little fish." Upon hearing this title, the young man's eyes twitched imperceptibly. He doesn't intend to admit the name in person, after all, it was forcibly given to him by her wishful thinking. Unexpectedly, his silence caused a misunderstanding for Tu Yao. She opened her eyes wide in disbelief and said, "Are you mute? Can't you? You can meow. How could you be mute?" The young man's ears were slightly red, and his glass-like eyes looked at her coldly, as if giving her a glare, with a hint of anger and embarrassment. Before Tu Yao could understand his gaze, he lifted his hand and swept 2 fingers towards her eyebrows. The white light suddenly lit up for a moment, and she lost consciousness. The next second, the boy appeared by her bed, looking down at Tu Yao, who was unconscious in his sleep. She only noticed a strangulation wound on her neck, but did not know that she accidentally inhaled the blood of the tentacle while biting it, which was toxic. There was a hint of emerald blood on her lips, and at this moment her lips had turned green. Even though she was poisoned now, the eerie and sweet scent from her body still attracted him, but it seemed to be mixed with impurities and became less pure. Disgusting dirty things make people irritable. Using her hand as a blade, she cut through the texture on the surface of her index finger, and a drop of bright red blood fell on her lips, merging with it as soon as it touched her lips. The blueness and blackness on her lips faded away, and her sleeping breath became calm. The wound on the finger automatically heals without any visible marks. The poison has been detoxified, but the scar on her neck. The boy took out the ointment and applied it to his fingertips, slowly probing towards the scar on her neck with an imperceptible tremble. It smells so good. He held his breath, but the sweet scent didn't seem to affect him through his sense of smell, it still penetrated everywhere. After finally applying the ointment to all the wounds, the young man felt relieved and quickly stood up and took a few steps back, using the formula to catalyze the effect. In less than a quarter of an hour, the terrifying marks on her body disappeared completely. He will erase her memories of everything tonight, and when she wakes up the next day, Tu Yao will remember nothing. The boy stared at her, lost in deep thought. From his observations today, it appears that there is nothing special about this human girl except for the inexplicable fragrance. She is not a cultivator and has not yet opened her mind to the sea. She is just an ordinary human. But why was she able to activate that thing and bring him here? Is that thing inside her now? He vaguely felt the scent of that thing on her, but it was very faint and seemed to have a close connection with her life. If he wanted to forcefully remove it, this person would surely die. And he cannot do so. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but sigh silently. I don't know if the scent emanating from her body is related to that thing. Other mortals, including herself, seem to have not noticed the scent on her body. On the contrary, this scent has an ultimate attraction to him. And many other evil spirits. Those things with lower cultivation, who are accustomed to living in the dark, dare not rampage during the day and can only sneak up at night to cause trouble. Therefore, they are attracted by her breath and wait until the quiet of the night to wait for the opportunity to move. This is just the first day. The young man's expression was solemn, and his hands quickly formed seals. The complex seals were hidden on Tu Yao's body. I don't know what dream she had, but she laughed out loud in the dream. Perhaps the space here was narrow and enclosed, and he felt the fragrance on her body even stronger, attracting him to approach her step by step. Get close to the place with the strongest fragrance. When he regained his senses, there was only a distance of 2 fingers between their lips, and he could feel the warm breath she exhaled, gently pouncing on his cheek. She was just an ordinary person with no resistance. Under his casual sleeping spell, she slept soundly. Even if he kissed her now and absorbed the tempting fragrance, she would not wake up, let alone know about it. There seems to be a voice in his mind so tempting him. The young man's eyes were stunned, and he suddenly regained consciousness. No. No, it's not possible. This is not only an act of taking advantage of someone's situation, but more importantly now that he still doesn't know the origin of this fragrance, how could he easily succumb to it? Thinking of this, the young man quickly straightened up and took a few steps back. His face, cold and calm like frost and snow, was tinged with a hint of embarrassment. He quickly erased her memories of tonight and silently left the room. Tu Yao had a good night's dream, but little did she know that as she fell asleep, a public opinion storm brewing out of deliberate revenge was waiting for her. Little dried fish, Tu Yao ran straight to the cat's nest as soon as he woke up, squatting in front of the little one and staring at it seriously. Honestly, are you a cat demon who came to me to repay the debt? It. She actually remembers. Does his spell not work? This is impossible. Tu Yao tried to put pressure on it with a serious expression, but unfortunately the little one remained unmoved and only blinked at her big ice blue eyes, looking extremely innocent. Don't pretend to be cute. Tu Yao vividly remembers everything that happened. The darkness that was out of sight, the strange and greedy eyes in the darkness, and the cold tentacles wrapped around her neck. There is also a beautiful young man transformed from dried fish into a super powerful one. She aimed a small mirror at it, as if holding a mirror that illuminated demons, and said solemnly, I have discovered your true face. Quickly reveal your true form, be honest, and tell me your purpose. It. Did you have too many performances or drank too much in the early morning? It casually looked at the mirror in front of it, continuing to pretend innocent. Chu Yao suddenly remembered something and raised his hand to touch his neck. Lying trough. What's going on? It doesn't hurt at all. She turned the mirror upside down and aimed it at herself. Last night, she was strangled by the tentacle of the tentacle monster that she didn't have a chance to see clearly. Normally, it will turn blue and purple now, and it's impossible for it to be like what she sees now, there is no trace at all, fair still. Is it difficult, just a dream? End of this chapter.